Hey friends, have you ever loved someone so deeply that you started losing parts of yourself just to keep their version of love alive? Sometimes the most painful form of manipulation doesn't come with raised voices or obvious abuse. It comes with silence, guilt, and slow emotional erosion, especially when it's wrapped in beauty, charm, and a carefully curated personality. In today's digital world, we're constantly fed images of perfection, flawless faces, filtered smiles, and so-called power dynamics that are glorified as confidence. But behind closed doors, many people, especially men, are suffering in silence. Why? Because the woman they love might also be the one quietly draining their spirit, not out of pure malice, but out of deeply embedded narcissistic behavior that hides behind sweet gestures and subtle emotional games. She doesn't raise her voice. She just makes you doubt your own. She doesn't need to control your life. She just makes you question your worth until you hand it over. And here's the hardest part. Most men don't even realize it's happening. They confuse manipulation with affection. They think her jealousy is love, her criticism is care, her emotional distance is mystery. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, once said, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind. Your soul takes on the color of your thoughts." If every day you're consumed by anxiety, walking on emotional eggshells, and living in quiet fear, what color is your soul turning into? It's time to change that, not by fighting fire with fire, not by playing games, but by awakening your awareness and stepping into your power with wisdom. This isn't about blaming women. It's not about dividing genders. It's about healing and learning how to protect your peace in a world that often romanticizes toxicity and calls it love. Today, we're going to dive into 9 deeply hidden psychological truths, the kind that can disarm a narcissistic woman without shouting, begging, or losing your self-worth. These are truths that don't just expose her behavior, but help you reclaim your dignity, your sanity, and your emotional independence. These are for the men who've stayed quiet for too long, the ones who loved too hard and lost themselves in the process, the ones who are done being manipulated but don't know where to start. If that's you, you're not alone. This is your wake-up call, and your healing starts now. Let's go start. Number 1, respond with calm, not chaos. The first and most powerful way to disarm a narcissistic woman is to not give her the reaction she expects. Narcissists thrive on emotional chaos. They pull strings not because they need control, but because your reaction is the fuel to their sense of power. When you argue, defend, explain, or get angry, you're feeding the machine that keeps the cycle going. Now, imagine this. You've just had a long day. She criticizes you, maybe about something small, how you forgot to text her back quickly or didn't notice her new outfit. You try to explain, you try to reassure, but nothing works. Instead, the conversation spirals. You feel like you're defending yourself in court, but she's already made her judgment. That's not love. That's emotional warfare dressed in intimacy. Narcissists create drama not to resolve problems, but to shift blame, test control, and keep your mind exhausted. They want you confused because a confused mind is easier to manipulate. The disarming move? Stay calm. Don't react. Observe instead of absorb. This doesn't mean being passive. It means being in control. Imagine yourself like a rock in a storm. The waves can crash, but you're grounded. Let's take this into the modern world. On social media, you've seen the memes, right? If he doesn't chase after me when I walk away, he doesn't love me. If he doesn't argue, he doesn't care. This glorification of toxic emotional games is dangerous. It teaches people that love means conflict, that silence means guilt, and that a healthy man who sets boundaries must be cold. But Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So when she provokes you through passive-aggressive comments, subtle jabs, or emotional withdrawal, Pause. Breathe. Don't feed it. Your calmness says, I'm not here to be manipulated. I'm not a puppet. I'm aware, I'm grounded, and I don't need to prove myself in every moment. And here's the best part. Your calm will confuse her. Why? Because narcissistic behavior is used to dominance through drama. When you remove the chaos, you remove their favorite weapon. Think of it like this. If someone throws a ball at you and you don't catch it, the game stops. By staying calm, you protect your peace. You teach her that you're no longer easily controlled. You start reclaiming your self-worth. One quiet moment at a time. So next time you're tempted to argue, explain, or fix her storm, try something different. Let her rage while you rise. Because the real power, it's not in shouting back. It's in being so emotionally stable that her games fall flat against your inner strength. Number 2, set boundaries without apology and stick to them. A narcissistic woman doesn't fear love. She fears limits. Limits mean she can no longer manipulate, twist, or stretch your kindness into servitude. That's why the moment you begin setting boundaries, real ones, she won't get quieter, she'll get louder. At first, it might be subtle. She'll test you, say, wow, you've changed, or why are you being so cold? Or even worse, she'll play the victim. I guess you don't love me like you used to. Here's what's really happening. You're no longer allowing yourself to be drained. You're no longer available 24/7 to fix her moods, validate her self-worth, or be the emotional punching bag for her insecurities. And that's terrifying to someone who needs control more than connection. Let me ask you, have you ever canceled something important to you just to avoid her silent treatment? Stayed on the phone when you were exhausted just to keep her from sulking? Stopped talking to female friends you've known for years just to avoid another one of her jealous breakdowns? That wasn't love. That was emotional submission disguised as devotion. In a world that teaches men to be endlessly giving and endlessly forgiving, the idea of saying no without guilt almost feels wrong. But Marcus Aurelius once said, never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect. And what are boundaries if not a commitment to your self-respect? When you begin setting boundaries with a narcissistic woman, expect friction. She'll accuse you of being distant, cold, uncaring. But here's the trick. Don't defend your boundary. Live it. Because boundaries aren't walls. They're filters. They don't keep love out. They keep toxicity from getting in. So what does this look like in real life? She calls you in the middle of a work meeting. You don't pick up. You text back after. She wants access to your phone, your DMD, your every move. You say, no, I need privacy, and that doesn't mean I'm hiding anything. She expects you to fight every time she's upset. You respond, I'm here when you're ready to talk with respect, not before. These actions might seem small, but to a narcissistic personality, they are devastating. Why? Because they signal the end of their control over your inner world. Here's what happens next. She'll either rise to meet your new standard, or she'll self-destruct trying to tear it down. Either way, you win because you've made your soul non-negotiable. And here's what most people don't tell you. Setting boundaries will make you lonelier at first, but then it will make you whole, because when you stop betraying yourself to keep someone else comfortable, you begin to breathe in a freedom most men never taste. So say it. Say it with strength. Say it with silence. Say it with action. This is what I allow. This is what I won't. And no, I don't owe you an explanation. Number 3, don't try to fix her pain. Let her face it. It's natural. You're a man who cares. So when she cries, when she breaks, when she tells you stories of her past, the heartbreaks, the betrayals, the father who never stayed, something inside you whispers, I'll be different. I'll heal her. But here's the truth no one tells you. You cannot heal someone who is addicted to their chaos. And a narcissistic woman often uses her pain, real or exaggerated, as both a shield and a weapon. She tells you, "I have trust issues," then reads into your every move, calls your loyalty into question, and expects you to prove yourself daily. She says, "Everyone has hurt me," and then punishes you for things you never did, makes you walk on emotional glass just to earn a sliver of peace. You try to hold her tighter, you talk softer, you show up stronger, but no matter how much you give, it's never enough, because she's not asking you to love her. She's asking you to sacrifice yourself to prove that love, and that's where you begin to lose yourself. Here's what men often forget. Compassion without boundaries becomes self-betrayal, and healing someone who refuses to take responsibility for their own wounds is not noble. It's a slow emotional death. Marcus Aurelius taught us, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." You are not the obstacle between her and healing. You were never supposed to be the way. She has to choose that path, alone. In real life, this looks like letting her sit in her silence instead of chasing her every time she withdraws, allowing her to feel the consequences of her actions instead of rescuing her with "it's okay" every time she lashes out, saying, "I understand you're hurting, but I won't let you take it out on me." This isn't cruelty. This is clarity, because here's what happens when you always try to fix her pain. You start erasing yourself. Your needs, your voice, your boundaries, they slowly fade, replaced by one constant job: emotional caretaker for someone who never says thank you. And one day, you'll look in the mirror and realize you don't recognize the man you've become. You're exhausted, anxious, empty, and still, she's not happy. So what's the solution? Let her feel her own storms. Let her wrestle with her own shadows. Let her sit in discomfort and learn the truth. Healing is a choice, not a gift someone else gives you. You are not her therapist. You are not her savior. You are a man worthy of peace, of love that doesn't cost your sanity, of a life that isn't shaped by emotional volatility. When you stop trying to fix her, something amazing happens. You begin to fix yourself. You regain your energy. You reclaim your confidence. You return to your center, not to punish her, but to protect your own soul. Let her face her pain, not because you don't care, but because you finally care about you. Number 4, don't chase her emotions. Guard your own peace. You know the feeling. One day she's warm. She laughs at your jokes, holds your hand like you're her whole world. The next she's cold, distant, passive-aggressive. You ask, "Is something wrong?" She says, "I'm fine," but she's not. And you can feel the storm gathering in her silence. So what do? You chase. You analyze every word, reread old texts, ask her again and again, "Please talk to me." You change your tone, your timing, your truth, just to bring her back to good. And every time you do that, a part of you dies a little. Here's the truth no one tells you. Chasing a narcissistic woman's emotions is like trying to catch fog with your bare hands. It keeps slipping through no matter how hard you try. And the more you chase, the more power she feels. This isn't just emotional manipulation, it's emotional domination. She learns that your peace is negotiable, that her moods control the temperature of your life. And once she knows you'll break yourself just to fix her mood, she'll never stop. But you have to, not because you're giving up on love, but because you're choosing sanity over submission. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Read that again. It's your mind, your peace, your emotional climate, and nobody, not even someone you love, gets to control the weather inside your soul. In real life, this means when she shuts down and goes silent for days, you don't beg, you wait, and you protect your calm. When she posts vague, sad girl quotes on Instagram and deletes your messages, you don't spiral. You let her play her game, and you don't play back. When she tries to guilt trip you for not reading her mind, you respond with calm. I'm here when you want to talk like adults, not for emotional riddles. This isn't heartless. This is self-defense for your soul. Because a relationship is supposed to be a partnership, not a guessing game where your happiness depends on someone else's unpredictable emotional waves. When you stop chasing, she'll react. Maybe she'll test harder, maybe she'll try to provoke, but eventually she'll realize your emotions are no longer hers to hijack, and that's when the power shifts. That's when you start breathing again, not in anxiety, but in self-trust. You no longer fear her silence because you've made peace with your own. Listen, it's not your job to carry the emotional weight of two people, especially when one of them keeps using it to crush you. So stop running toward her chaos. Start walking toward your clarity. You're not being cold, you're being conscious of what your heart can handle. Number 5, don't mirror her drama. Respond with stillness. One of the most powerful ways to disarm a narcissistic woman is this. Don't mirror her chaos. Master your calm. Because here's the thing, narcissists thrive on reaction. They feed off your emotional instability like it's fuel for their fire. If she yells and you yell back, she feels validated. If she cries and you panic to fix it, she feels powerful. If she gives you silent treatment and you beg her to talk, she knows she's won. Drama is not the side effect, it's the strategy. She pushes emotional buttons on purpose, not always consciously, not always with malice, but she's learned that pain gets her attention, manipulation gives her control, and emotional chaos gives her power. So how do you break this cycle? By refusing to dance in her storm, by practicing what the Stoics call apathetic, not apathy, but deep emotional equanimity, a kind of inner stillness that isn't cold, it's unshakable. Marcus Aurelius said, "To be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands, unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." This is not weakness. This is warrior discipline, emotional strength in its most grounded form. Here's what that looks like in real life. She accuses you of cheating because you didn't text back for an hour. Instead of explaining yourself 1,000 times or apologizing for breathing, you calmly say, "I don't entertain disrespect," and you walk away. She picks a fight right before an important event, your presentation, your interview, your night out with friends. Instead of falling into the trap, you say, "We'll talk when we're both calm," and you stick to that. She uses tears as a weapon, guilt as a tool, silence as punishment. Instead of reacting like a child starving for love, you sit with your discomfort. You remind yourself, my peace is not up for negotiation, because the truth is, the more reactive you are, the less powerful you become. And a narcissistic woman tests your emotional boundaries constantly. She wants to know, will you abandon yourself for me? Will you lose your balance so I don't have to face mine? And if you say yes, again and again, she'll never respect you. Because love built on emotional instability is not intimacy, it's codependency. But when you respond with stillness, something magical happens. She has nothing to push against. Her chaos hits a wall of calm, and in that silence, her games begin to lose their power. You're not stonewalling, you're not withdrawing love, you're just refusing to let her emotional storms pull you out of your own soul. And eventually, one of two things will happen. She'll adjust, because your calm forces her to face her own inner noise. She'll escalate, trying harder to provoke you. And when that fails, she may leave. Both outcomes are a gift, because either she evolves or she exits. And in both cases, you remain whole. Listen, you don't win by beating her at her own game, you win by refusing to play. The moment you stop mirroring her drama and start mastering your own emotional state, that's the moment you become untouchable. Let her throw her fire. You become the water. Let her spin her web. You walk right through it. Slow, silent, centered. You don't owe anyone your peace. And if she can't exist in your stillness without creating storms, that says everything. Number 6, don't reveal all your wounds. Protect your vulnerability like sacred ground. It's natural to want to be open in love, to share your fears, your childhood scars, your deepest doubts, especially when you care deeply. But when you're dealing with a narcissistic woman, this sacred act of emotional vulnerability can become dangerous, because what begins as trust can be turned into ammunition. She may listen, nod, even hold your hand when you open up, but the moment conflict arises, those same soft truths you gave her will be used against you. You told her about your fear of abandonment. Now she threatens to leave every time you stand your ground. You shared that your father was emotionally distant. Now she accuses you of being cold or just like him when you need space. You admitted you're not perfect, that you've made mistakes in the past. Now she makes you feel like you'll never be enough. This isn't love. This is weaponized intimacy, and it cuts deep because it came from someone who once seemed safe. Here's the truth. Not everyone deserves the map to your soul, especially not someone who has shown you again and again that they'll use it to trap you, not to walk beside you. In today's world, vulnerability is preached like a universal cure. And yes, it's beautiful, it's brave, but only when it's mutual, only when it's honored. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If you're constantly bleeding emotionally for someone who throws your truths back at you, your soul begins to internalize that betrayal. You start believing you're weak for feeling, foolish for trusting, broken for caring. You're not. You're just offering sacred things to someone who isn't sacred space. So here's what you do instead. Be kind, be open, but be discerning. Speak your truth, but hold back the pieces that feel like open wounds until trust has been earned, not just claimed. Don't perform emotional surgery in front of someone who might walk away in the middle of it. This doesn't mean you're emotionally closed. It means you're emotionally wise. You're no longer trying to heal your inner child by handing her to someone who has no idea how to care for her. In real life, this means when she says, "Tell me everything," early on, you don't. You reveal slowly, mindfully. When she guilt trips you for hiding things, you calmly say, "I open up when I feel safe, not when I feel pushed." That line alone shifts the dynamic. It tells her, I'm not here to bleed for approval. I'm here to grow through truth. If she can't respect your pace, your privacy, your emotional edges, she doesn't deserve access to your emotional center. Because your vulnerability isn't weakness, it's sacred, it's earned, and once you protect it like it deserves, you stop giving away power to people who only know how to take. And suddenly, she can't control you anymore because she no longer has the blueprint to break you. That's the moment the shift begins. That's when you step out of the prison of emotional exposure and into the temple of emotional power. Number 7, walk away without warning, but not without wisdom. Sometimes the most powerful move you'll ever make is leaving, not loudly, not with drama, not in a flood of texts or long explanations that beg her to understand, but quietly, intentionally, with your dignity intact and your soul finally at peace. Because here's the truth, when dealing with a narcissistic woman, the more you explain yourself, the more you expose yourself. She thrives on your confusion. She manipulates your desire for closure. She reopens wounds just when they begin to heal. Because control is the currency she understands best. She doesn't change when you plead. She doesn't soften when you cry. She changes only when her tactics stop working. And the most disarming, devastating, and self-liberating thing you can do is stop engaging altogether. But don't get it wrong. Walking away isn't about revenge. It's not about making her miss you. It's about reclaiming yourself. You don't need to announce your departure like a scene from a movie. You just need to choose yourself. Quietly, firmly, finally. In today's social media world, people confuse visibility with value. You're tempted to post something, hint something, show something. Resist that urge. There's more strength in vanishing with purpose than there is in shouting your pain to people who only weaponize it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." You don't need to argue about what she did or didn't do. You don't need to justify why you can't take it anymore. You know, your heart knows, and your peace, that sacred, unshakable peace, knows. When you walk away without chaos, you send a message. I'm not trying to punish you. I'm not trying to fix you. I'm just done offering myself to someone who doesn't see my worth. That kind of exit is unforgettable. In real life, this looks like you don't answer her baiting texts. You stop explaining yourself in endless loops. You stop checking her stories, her posts, her likes. You stop trying to prove you were the good one, because you were, and you don't need her validation to believe that anymore. You take back your energy. You rebuild your boundaries. You return to your stillness, the one that existed before she convinced you that love had to hurt. And someday, maybe weeks, maybe years later, she'll notice. She'll remember the version of you that stayed too long, gave too much, loved too hard. And it won't matter anymore, because you'll be gone, not just from her life, but from her grip. And in that new space you've created, something beautiful happens. You don't just lose her, you find you, and that is the real win. Number 8, don't try to win, try to understand why you want to. One of the most disarming things you can ever do with a narcissistic woman is not play the game at all, because here's the uncomfortable truth. The narcissist only exists in your life for as long as you continue trying to win her attention, win her approval, win her back, win her validation. You keep showing up to a chess match where the rules keep changing, and somehow you always lose. But why? Because deep down, it's not just about her. It's about you trying to fix something she broke inside you, a need to prove that you're finally enough for someone who's never satisfied. Let's pause and get honest. Ever notice how after every argument, you feel drained, not resolved? How every compliment from her feels like a rare reward, but her criticism feels like your entire self-worth is on trial. That's not love, that's emotional roulette. And here's the twist. She doesn't need to change to stop controlling you. You need to stop trying to win her. Let me explain this with a real-life pattern. There's a guy named Daniel, smart, kind, thoughtful, but he was stuck in a toxic loop with a narcissistic partner. No matter how hard he tried, the gifts, the apologies, the patience, it was never enough. Until one day, his therapist asked him, "Why are you so determined to win someone who keeps making you lose yourself?" That was the moment it clicked. Daniel wasn't trying to win her. He was trying to win the version of himself he lost in that relationship. The confident one, the hopeful one, the loved one. But the truth is, that version of you doesn't come back through her validation. It comes back through your self-awareness. You don't win by outsmarting her manipulation. You win by understanding why it worked on you in the first place. Because narcissists don't hypnotize strong people. They hypnotize people who once had to earn love in order to feel worthy. And when you wake up to that, when you realize the game isn't worth playing, you stop trying to score points. You stop rewriting your soul just to make her stay. You stop dancing for crumbs when you were meant for a feast. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." So if your mind is consumed with, "How do I make her love me?" shift the question to, "Why am I trying to get love from someone who treats me like I'm not enough?" You'll find your power not in winning her over, but in walking away from the need to win at all. When you stop chasing love that hurts, when you stop seeking approval from someone who weaponizes it, you become someone she can no longer manipulate. And that, my friend, is the deepest disarmament of all. Number 9, leave without needing her to understand. Sometimes the most powerful move isn't confrontation, it's exit without explanation. Not because you don't deserve to be heard, but because you finally understand she was never listening. Let's say it clearly. Narcissistic people don't respond to logic, vulnerability, or emotional appeals. They don't reflect, they deflect. They don't take accountability, they flip the blame. So what do we usually do? We write long texts, trying to explain ourselves. We stay up at night rehearsing what to say so she'll finally get it. We beg, not for love, but for closure. But here's the truth, no one tells you. Closure doesn't come from her understanding you. It comes from you understanding her and realizing she was never capable of giving you the love you were trying to earn. When you internalize that, something shifts. You stop arguing with ghosts. You stop bleeding yourself dry to feed someone else's ego. You stop needing a reason to walk away because your peace is reason enough. Let's look at this through a raw, real lens. There's a woman named Leona. Her boyfriend spent months trying to get her to stay. He apologized for things he didn't do. He forgave her for lies she never admitted. He shrank so she could shine. But the more he tried to love her, the more she punished him for it. One day he said, "I'm done trying to prove I'm worthy. If you can't see it, I'm not going to keep showing up for your blindness." And he walked. No message, no final plea, just peace. It broke her ego, but it rebuilt his soul. This is what you must understand if you're serious about disarming a narcissistic woman. You don't defeat her by out-talking her. You disarm her by refusing to engage in the power struggle at all. When you leave without needing to be right, when you walk away without needing her apology, when you choose silence over one last argument, you reclaim something more valuable than winning. You reclaim yourself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In this case, the best revenge is peace, is not checking her status anymore, is not posting to make her jealous, is not needing her to say, "You were right," because now you know you were. You see, narcissistic women thrive on attention, even negative attention. The moment you stop giving it, you stop feeding the very system that kept you trapped. It's not weakness to walk away, it's emotional maturity. It's self-worth finally waking up and saying, "We don't live here anymore, so leave." Not because she's evil, but because she's unhealthy for your soul. Not because you hate her, but because you love yourself more than the cycle. You don't need closure, you need freedom, and you don't get that by banging on a locked door. You get it by walking through the one marked enough. And when you do, something incredible happens. She loses control, the game ends, and you win, not because she finally saw your value, but because you finally did. Conclusion. The truth is, disarming a narcissistic woman isn't about changing her. It's about protecting yourself, your energy, your peace, your future. It's about finally realizing that not all love is healthy, and not all attention is worth chasing. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away with your dignity intact, no longer needing permission to heal. We often confuse love with endurance, thinking that the more we tolerate, the deeper the connection. But what if the real depth is learning to love yourself enough to say, "This ends here"? Because when you stop responding to manipulation, when you no longer react to the bait, when you no longer dance for her validation, you become someone who can't be controlled. And that is power. If any of these 9 points resonated with you, pause for a moment. Think about how far you've come. And if this helped you see things more clearly, please share this video with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe to Power of Stoic Life for more raw, healing, and honest content. Here, we speak what others are afraid to say. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. So take your power back, not by fighting her, but by freeing yourself. This isn't just a goodbye to a toxic woman. It's a hello to the healed version of you. Let that be your final move, and your most powerful one. Let's meet again on the path of healing. Until next time, stay grounded, stay free.